the links, join channel here over at Subscribe Star. So Kevin Spacey in the end of the Me Too era. The whole thing, what a sociopath you look like, with the Spaceys and the Weinsteins and the Me Too era is, and I know this isn't politically correct, but you ever stop to think maybe women aren't meant to be in these strange situations around strange men, and in general are very much not going up into hotel rooms. Like, I know Hollywood's a unique situation, but for the women who are getting chased around an office, wouldn't it be a better society if women were able to stay home and raise kids, and the men were able to do all those other things? Kind of sucks that America took the path it did post-war. Enjoy the decline, as Hypocrite says. Anyway, so Weinstein is the most famous example, but he and Spacey were just two out of hundreds of abusive parasites in Hollywood that people allowed to be abusers, allegedly, for decades. Well, Weinstein's not alleged, he's guilty. Nobody cared about the actors as long as they were making money. And keep in mind, you have the Film Actors Guild for a reason. Shouldn't the union have fixed this problem years ago? I mean, what's the point of the union except to protect the actors' interests? And it would seem like stopping abuse would be a pretty important issue. But it seemed that nobody but the victims cared in Hollywood. Even when actors were telling Barbara Walters and Oprah Winfrey had these two famous interviews about the Weinstein type of stuff, they were more concerned for the wealthy men in Hollywood than the victims. And it's like, that wasn't that long ago. Because Walters and Oprah also seemed like sociopaths who were getting paid very well to not rock the boat. Because Hollywood attracts abusive people, just the worst people on earth are in Hollywood, on all sides of the aisle. It was only very reluctantly that Hollywood had to clean up his act a little bit. I think it was Alyssa Milano from that 80s TV show Who's the Boss with Tony Danza, who started Me Too and encouraged alleged victims to come forward. But this is where everything falls apart, because the concept of due process, a very important foundation of at least our legal system, went out the window, and it turned into a witch hunt based on nothing more than an accusation. They had catchphrases like hashtag believe women and believe victims, and women don't lie about these kind of things. Except, unfortunately, they do lie all the time about abuse and everything else, because humans lie about everything, and allegedly women are human. You just can't believe that somebody's a victim and the accused is guilty because somebody says so. People have their own motivations. Like, we're not men or women. Like, nobody's an angel here. You have to have a fair trial. That's kind of the whole point of the speedy trial and face your accusers and the whole concept of due process. So Me Too came at the worst moment for it because of social media, where you had mobs of low IQ, brainwashed idiots who would hear an accusation and then they just immediately cancel the person. Guilty or innocent, it didn't matter. The accusation was the proof. They didn't wait for the story to develop. All they did was they heard a rumor, and it was just a wolf pack out for blood. There was no structure to protect the accused, who in some cases was the real victim, because they were falsely accused by malicious people who were looking to cash in on a settlement or just get back in the limelight. I think that Zoe Quinn did that to some guy, where he suddenly has this social media dog pile attacking him, and he left this mortal coil by his own hands because he couldn't. The pressure was too much, and there's actually more than one case of people being falsely accused of these kind of things and having this, like, people are not ready for the stress of like an attack mob. It's something you really have to work up to slowly, to where you get a thick skin to kind of deal with that kind of stuff. But that's why there's a concept of timeliness for legal issues. The statute of limitation varies for different causes of action, but the goal is to have the issue dealt with immediately after it occurs, because the evidence is fresh and it's fair to both sides if it's adjudicated immediately. But in these cases, the stuff that had allegedly occurred decades ago, when witnesses were gone and memories were foggy and records go missing, it just became a case of he said, she said, and whoever the mob on social media favored more was the person who had truth on their side. It's like, but that's not truth. That's not due process. But they had very little evidence, so there isn't much a court can do in that situation to resolve it and to be fair in both sides, protect both parties' rights, which is why it would have been better if the unions had handled these issues of abuse decades ago. But they didn't, because I assume that they had a financial interest not to get involved also. Hollywood is full of scumbags, male and female, and sometimes the victims, yes, they can be a victim in some situations, and then abusers in other situations. Like, things are very complicated when you get into Hollywood, at least on the actor side of it, because like there is a certain narcissism. Not all. I mean, there are some great people who are actors in Hollywood. I think they're mostly on the right though, who are not these filthy degenerate parasites. But there's a certain narcissism to wanting to be in a spotlight and wanting to hear, have the accolades and all that kind of stuff. It takes a certain type of personality, and a lot of times they're not very good people. And then, I mean, that's just the actor side of it. But then the other side of it is the predators who are running the business, the Weinstein type of stuff. Anyway, so the Me Too movement got energy behind it to clean up Hollywood, except it's Hollywood. So you're not going to be busting right wing Hugo Boss guys, which is, in their fantasy, like everything in their world's a straw man. If they didn't have a straw man view of the world, I don't know what they do. But when the real world rears its ugly head, it shows that, like, oh yeah, all these abusers are all, well, 90% plus are going to be left wing, very publicly left wing people who are DNC donors and just in the most insane degenerate liberals. Well, yeah, those are going to be the ones who were abusing men and women. You're not, if it was it's not some right wing group. It's like Hollywood. Hollywood's very clearly left wing group. It's great that you want to stop the abuse, but like, who did you expect that you were going to find? Oh, we're gonna get these. There's just not enough right wing people in Hollywood for you to find them out. And if they're there, they're keeping their head down. I mean, they're the kind of people who, right wing people are more likely to be going to church and getting married and having kids and just not get involved in this kind of stuff. Not, I mean, just I'm talking about big, broad generalities. And I mean that's what the evidence showed, because and Johnny Depp was another situation. So they were finding out that these Hollywood parasites were hypocrites, and they were giving speeches about whatever BS was topical and sodomizing actors in the hotel rooms. I mean, the whole thing was just insane levels of gaslighting from the worst people on earth. And it was giving Hollywood, the DNC, the left in general, a black eye. Even some left-wing politicians were caught into it. I forget the guy's name, Franks. And then the Epstein Island stuff came out, and it was obviously all Hollywood scumbags who were flying to that island. But the Me Too movement was at least starting to bring attention to a problem, even if innocent people were getting dragged into it. But eventually people noticed that it was almost all high-profile left-wing people who were accused of abusing men, women, and children. And there's a guy who was it Nickelodeon, the guy who was in Better Off Dead? Yeah, he was the great big fat guy, and he had some kind of foot fetish, and he's working around kids. And then people were starting to show like some of the kids programming, and they're showing some of the skits that the kids and the adults were doing, and they were putting these kids in obviously messed up physical, having them wear costumes and having them pose in like it should have. If there was an adult on the set who was, I mean, there should have, like, somebody should have spoke up and said, you can't. This is a kid. This is under 18, and you have them posed in suggestive physical poses. I mean, it was obvious what they're doing. If enough, but you figure like adults aren't watching that kind of stuff. And YouTube years ago they had stuff on YouTube that was not good type of stuff. It's like it was adults and kids who were teaming up to make kids programming, but it was like there was something else going on behind the scene. It was dirty. Anyway, so all these left-wing people were getting popped. So what happened was they just shut it down. Some of the puppet masters in Hollywood, presumably, and the media just got together and said, yeah, we're going to have to stop reporting on this. And that's what happened. The stories got more infrequent, and they didn't have the energy behind them because the media didn't want the story to continue because it was helping the right-wing narrative too much. So they stopped covering it. However much you hate Hollywood and the media, it's not enough. In their mind, they're battling true evil. They're battling. They think Trump, right? They think he's literally Satan on earth. So anything that stops the right wing or Trump, they'll go to any lengths. It doesn't matter how how immoral or how many people they have to hurt because they think they're battling the ultimate evil. So yes, there's going to make some sacrifices along the way, and that's their strawman view of the world. Like they really can't view the other side. Where there's a study now that shows the right wing can sympathize and emphasize sympathy and empathy for the left and right wing positions. They can view left wing positions, but the left can't view right wing positions. They just can't imagine an argument to be had on the right where the right can do it to the left and the right. So there's this kind of weird sociopathy among the left, and the further left you get, the more violent fantasies they have because they think they're battling evil. And you look around, it's like, yeah, the people you want to put in gulags and like arson their places and march through their neighborhoods and do harm to them, like that's just normal family people who are just living a normal life, and in their mind they have it all worked up that they're fighting like true evil because when you're looking at mental illness, it's like 90% on the left, and the further left you go, the more mental illness there is. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. Hate Hollywood, the media, and the government. Just every day, hate them more and more. And I'll see you guys all next episode.